What's up, everyone? This is the admin of the Chaos Breaker page coming at you with a Kagero deck profile. I recently updated this deck profile. Well, not really updated, but more on the lines of got the new cards to get it up to date so that it's playable and, just keep up with the current shift and how the game speed is going. So I just kind of wanted to throw out my idea of how to play this deck in a sense. I feel like there will be some different arguments or approach in building the deck wise, so please keep that in mind. Personal preference does come in. It does come in to the factor of building this deck, so there'll be reasons why I'm running certain things in comparison to not running certain things. That isn't to say that I don't have those cards. I do have access to certain cards, but you'll see them when you'll see what I mean when I get to those cards and explain why I'm running what I'm running. So yeah, so let's get to it. I'm running the starter for the deck is Lizard Soldier Conroe. Fetches any grade 1 or less from your deck to your hand at the cost of retiring him and a counterblast. He's one of the best starters, I would say, for Kagero. I don't think there is any other good starters, in all honesty, unless you're struggling to get a specific starter. So I would say Conroe would be one of the best ones to have. Going into the triggers, I am running 4 of the Dragon Dancer Terras, which are the new heal triggers, the counter charge or soul charge heal triggers, as long as you can bind another heal when you pitch it for a cost of G guards. This is a pretty staple heal because you need it in the deck for counter charging if you're in a situation where you need it. So that's why I prefer running this. I did run Positive Draco Kid, which was the Fighter Collection heal, but considering I'm not running the G-Guard associated with it, there was absolutely no point in running Positive Draco Kid. So I swapped to these. I am also running 6 criticals. Now this is the probably different part in comparison to how a lot of people play it. Some people run 8 crit 4 draw, 7 crit 5 draw, or 6 crit 6 draw, depending on how you look at the build. I'm running this as a 6 crit 4 draw, 2 of each draws, because of specific scenarios I've gone into where I felt that our peak was better than Gatling Claw, depending on the situation and what I had in my hand, so it actually kind of helped. I'm running 3 of the Fire Chase because I could technically bump it up to 4, but I really didn't see the point, considering I never really use its effect, but there will be times when I do, and it'll come in handy, but it's just not always. So, yeah. And to round up the triggers, I'm running 2 Inspire Yells. This is mostly for the Blaze mechanic and for getting specific things to go off. It does combo well with Evolute and Glow Heater, which is essential for the deck in the sense for power pressure. The deck doesn't rely on these stand triggers, so it's not like the major point of the thing, but it does have its uses depending on your situation, especially if your deck is low on the amount and your chances of getting into these is lower, or I mean higher if your deck amount is low. So that's my zeros I'm running currently right now. Let's see, let's go to the 3s first. So I am running 4 of the Destinies, just because it's a really good grade 3 that just got released in Ultimate Stride. Has the retire effect on the first one on Ride, beginning of Ride phase. You can Soul Blast 1, target a circle, get rid of everything that's on that circle, so it bypasses lock and resist. And then the Stride skill itself is similar to Cohen, where you on Stride skill, counterblast 1, retire a unit, but then instead of getting the 3k to a Blaze unit, you look at top 7 for a grade 3 Overlord, which is something that you want to do in this deck, because if you can filter out all your grade 3s, that means your chances of hitting zeros are a lot better, and also key pieces. So it's probably your main ride majority of the time, depending on your matchup. I am also running 3 Dotes in the deck. I'm not running Legend because of certain reasons. Why is Legend doesn't really give me enough advantage for its trade-off of one Counterblast and one Soul Blast. Yes, while it does give me a Flame Dragon, sometimes it just doesn't help. I'd rather be either on Destiny or Do because of because of my matchup, because of advantage gaining, pressure on my opponent. There's all these factors I have to take into account too, and Legend doesn't give me that. Legend is like, okay, right, Counterblast 1, Soul Blast 1, look at top 5 out of Flame Dragon. That's it. There really isn't too much after that. Yes, it's got the GB2, but that GB2 is too lackluster, and I feel it's really not worth it, in my opinion. So that's why I'm running the Dote. Dote is really good if your opponent is trying to play the stall game for the pressure to double or to on hit double swing. It's really good for that combo. And then to finish out my threes, I'm running 2 crosses just for those timings when I feel like I'm gonna need to Legion back, because deck out can actually happen with this deck if you don't play it right, or if you're in a position where the game drags too long. And also, because I am running a specific card, Legion does come in handy as an alternative play. So that's all my grade 3s. Grade 2s, I'm running 4 of the Legend deck Nahalims. It's one of the best ones in the deck, I feel, because it can hit up to 16 and 21. It doesn't matter what stride you're on, as long as you're on a grade 4. And because all your grade 3s are Overlord, it'll be an 11k attacker no matter what. And if your Vanguard double swings, it becomes 21. If it single swings, it's 16. So it's pretty staple for power. It makes up for having no rear guards, or not many boosters. But if you have a booster, it makes it even better, in my opinion. So that's why I run it at 4. I'm running 4 Burning Horn Evolutes. I don't have the Burnout, or I have Burnouts, but I took them out for this because from what people have said and from testing as well, Burnout is a bit lackluster, isn't really needed anymore in Evolute. Burning Horn gives you a little bit more of a pressure on your opponent, especially on the second skill, where if you have an original Vanguard, or original grade 4 named Overlord, he gets the 2k for every damage your opponent has. And for that, the only strides that this works on is if you're on Ace or if you're on Perch. Those are the only strides this works on. So if you're on Ziegenberg, that second effect is not going to work. And that's where Nehalem comes in, because he works at any moment in time, as long as you swim. So that's why he's in here. And he's also got that Soul Blast 1, reveal a Overlord, retire something that's in the same column as it. It's kind of like a mix between a Menace Laser and a Novel Critic Dragon, if you guys remember back in the day with Novel. So he's not too bad, in my opinion. And then to finish up the grade 2s, I'm running 4 Glow Heaters. The Glow Heaters are really good because they're 10k base. Yes, while for the turn, if you can't reveal an Overlord, if your Vanguard does not have an Overlord, it'll lose the 5k, but then it will revert back to 10k. It's still not bad. It has the same second skill of if you have an original named Vanguard with Overlord, that's grade 4, it gains 2k for every damage your opponent has. So this is a pretty good lineup in a sense, in my opinion, just for the power pressure. And because you're not really relying on boosters too much, you're going to need some way to extend the power somehow. And the second effect does help as long as you're on Purge or Ace. So that's why I'm running those. To finish off with the grade 1s, I'm running two Strife Otters. I had it at 3, but then I cut it down to 2 because of lineups, and I felt that Lava Flow didn't really need to be used too much, so I just cut it down to 2. It's good, you can search anyway, so it doesn't really matter if you only run 2. Majority of the time you're ditching grade 3s for your strides. There will be certain times where Lava Flow will come in handy instead, so that's why you'll have it, but majority of the time, just 2 is probably enough. I am also running 2 Doombringer High Flames because this is a really good first effect where if it's called on rear, you can take up to 2 Overlords from your drop zone, put it into the deck, shuffle, and draw a card. If you only put 1, you only shuffle the deck. If you put 2, you get an extra draw off of it after you shuffle, which is really good. The second effect, you retire it at the beginning of your ride phase. You may pay the cost of getting rid of it. If you do, you can stride for free as long as the stride is Overlord. So only for Purge and for Ace. That effect only works for that. Which, I mean, I've seen myself get to that point where I need it that time, but some of the times there really isn't much of a point, so I just do it for the draw. Also, it combos well with Conroe, so if you call this, send two Overlords back, draw, and then you can go Conroe, reveal grade 3, and, you know, get rid of one of the Overlords that you just sent back to the deck, so then that way it's one less Overlord, and you're getting a draw off of it, so it's not too bad, in my opinion, going with that combo. And then speaking of Conroe, I am running 4 of the Lizard General Conroe. When you place on rear, you reveal a grade 3 from your hand. If you do, look at your deck for a grade 3 Overlord, add it to your hand. If you do, or I mean, at the resolution, you pitch a card from your hand. Doesn't matter what you pitch. And then you can retire this if you have a Vanguard with Overlord in its card name until the turn it gets when it attacks countercharge 2. Which is pretty staple, in my opinion, to run. And then I'm running 4 Perfect Guards for the Doomjid Perfect Guards. I have Protect Orbs, but I'm still in the middle of testing Doomjid, but I like how Doomjid is being used in this deck because countercharge is not an issue for this deck, and I value the shield power a lot more because there will be times when shield power over, what do you call it, takes over precedence over Perfect Guard, depending on your situation. And so using this as a 15k shield is not too bad. The only requirement is to have a Doomjin in your drop zone, which, I mean, that's easy to do. But depending on the situation, defense is actually a pretty difficult thing for this deck. Sometimes. There'll be times when defense is easy to get through, but you have to also think of the times when you can't risk it. If you have a Protect Orb versus this, and depending on your situation, you kind of wish you could just throw it as a shield, that's where Doomjid comes in. And because countercharge is not an issue, Doomjid tends to make it a bit better, but again, player preference and how you deck build is also a factor. Some people prefer Protect Orbs over Doomjid, so I can't really say either one is better than the other. It's just preference. That isn't to say that I won't run either one. It's just since I have both sets, I'm trying out both, and I personally prefer Doomjid just because I don't need the counter charge. So, or not that I don't need it, it's just I can get it easily without much problems. And so that's the main deck. For the Stride deck, I am running, I gotta sort through this again. I am running one Ascendgrave Dragon because it is really good as a first Stride, counterblast or Blaze, and then it's got the effect counterblast 1, flip over a copy, flip over something, and then you get the following skill when this blazing unit attacks, draw a card, retire a unit. So it works pretty well because you get one draw off of it, and then you get a retire. It's better than Vortex and Mustafa because those two just retire and then, okay, triple drive. That's it. I mean, Mustafa gets the counter charge if you flip over another Mustafa, but I felt like this is a lot better because you get that one card on top, whereas the other two just doesn't give you anything except for the triple drive. So that's why he's at 1 in here. He's really good to run. And then I'm running 2 Purges in this deck. The Purge is really good in here because you can deal the damage to your opponent as long as you put one Overlord into the soul. Comes really well with the Stride skill. Also the Generation Break 3, where he gains drive checks equal to the amount of damage your opponent has. It's a big factor because he can get at least 5 drive checks in one go, which is it's very deadly depending on the matchup. And so sometimes he's a really, really strong finisher, quote-unquote, in a sense, which is why he's at 2 in here. I would run 3, but because of how my G units are, I'm only running 2, which you'll see in a reason why. And then now I am also running 2 the Ace. Because of the Doombringer's free stride, kind of quote-unquote, retire it and I can stride into an Overlord stride for free. These are the main targets for those. And Ace is okay depending on your matchup because sometimes the double swing with Ace is a lot more better than Ziegenberg because of certain situations where you could go neg going into a different stride. So that's why Ace is in here, but majority of the time he's not being used because I usually flip him over either through Ascendgrave or Purge depending on the situation. But he's still not too bad to have at 2 of. I've seen some people run at 3, but I just don't see the room, and I felt like 2's only enough, is pretty enough already. But, you know, never know. I'm also running 4 Ziegenbergs in the deck just because free restand, 3 drive, restand, 1 drive. The Blaze is really easy to pull off, especially in an Overlord deck. You retire so much, it's ridiculous. So it gives you that pressure, you know, the double swing pressure has its own retire effect of flipping it over, so lost 1 retire something. So it's really good, in my opinion, to have. I could cut one of this for another ace, but I kind of prefer the Ziegenbergs, so I just left it the way it is. I run 1 GB8 because you never know when he can clinch the games. Because you stride so much and you flip over cards so much, you can reach GB8 pretty fast. So I threw 1 in here. It also powers up your rear guard, so it gives you a lot of pressure. And then to finish off my G units, I have the 1 Drachma in here for those specific situations where I know I can win with Drachma. He is a very more of a win more card. He's not a necessity in the deck. You could technically run a 3rd Purge over this guy if you don't have this guy. So this is just based off of personal access or whatever. Considering I have one, I just throw it in here because you can pull it off really easily. And it's just that it's situational, so you don't always go into him if you know that you're trying to go for a definite win kind of scenario. But if your opponent has 3 cards in their hand, they're at 5 damage, you know, I might just Drachma my opponent just because at that point they can't guard from hand. I have 3 attacks going at them, you know, they have to bet on 3 heal triggers. So it's kind of that idea with him. So he's a one-of in the deck. And that's the entire G-Zone in a sense. For the G-Guards, I'm running 1 Defeat Flare for those matchups where he comes in handy. Some of the times he does help with clearing the back row if I really feel like the back row's a pain in the butt to try to get through. So I just kept it at 1. He might get swapped over depending on the situation, but for now, he's staying in here. I am running 2 Upsalams for those matchups where my opponent's Vanguard hits for a lot. And if my opponent also has empty rear guards, you know, Counterblast 1, when an opponent's Van attacks my Vanguard, I gain 10k for each open rear. So, or for each open rear on my opponent's circle. I think. Yeah, open rear guard circle. So that's why he's pretty good as a 2-of. And then I run, to finish it off, I run 2 Denial Griffins to get rid of those rear guards that are hitting way too high. So yeah, so that's my deck profile. Hope you guys enjoyed this. Let me know what you think. I know a lot of this is player preference, and I know there's going to be a lot of people who say, oh, this is better, this is better, this is better. Again, this is personal preference on specific things, and I've tested it with a lot of things. I do agree with a lot of people's opinions that, you know, there's certain things that are better than the other. It's just that depending on where you play, what part of the, you know, states or whatever, play styles are a little bit different. So, you know, something might work for you over there, but it might not work over here because it's not prominent. So please take that into mind. So let me know what you guys think, and, you know, I'm gonna try to do more deck profiles pretty soon because I got new stuff. So yeah, hope you guys enjoyed this. This is the admin of the Chaos Breaker page, and hope you guys had a great New Year's too, because by the time I record this and put it up, you know, it's already New Year's or past it. So yeah, see you guys later, and catch you guys on the next video. Laters.